This is a special episode of Integrative Lawyers of the World, where we believe we are interconnected. When war ravages upon one of us, we are all covered in darkness. In the clouds of darkness, it is hard to see the light, but there is courage in community and there is comfort in connection. In our community and connection, we see that there is light shining on us, in us, and through us. In this spirit, we are offering a chance for people to gather together and to meditate for peace. May the clouds of war dissipate in the light of our peace. Thank you for joining us today as we gather together and meditate for peace in Ukraine. And we're just going to start with a brief check-in. If people want to go around the room and introduce themselves and say how they're feeling or thinking about what's going on in Ukraine. Henry, you're our guest facilitator, and you're going to help guide us in the meditation. Would you mind starting us off in this part as well?
Sure, Carrie. I will be very, very happy to do so. And I also want to, in starting us off, I would like to share how nuanced, the regional connections and the interactions in Ukraine, just using the example of my family. So I was born and grew up in Kyiv, Ukraine, the capital city. Of course, now we see it on the news quite a bit. Beautiful city, city filled with parks. So my family, as much as did 60%, probably 60% of residents of Kyiv at the time, spoke Russian and were primarily Russian speaking. And growing up, we traveled between Ukraine and Russia. And this was as routine as going between Virginia and West Virginia, for those who are in North America. And culturally, when you crossed over to Russia or vice versa, it was identical. People spoke the same language, cars looked the same, buildings looked the same, stores were the same, everything was the same, conditioning was the same. Now, in Ukraine, of course, there was different language. But the population really could switch back and forth. Eastern and southern Ukraine was primarily Russian speaking. So my family left Ukraine in 1994 to escape religious persecution. And this was the wild 90s, the Wild West in the former Soviet Union and especially in Ukraine. My life partner is from Belarus. And my family members are spread between Ukraine, geographically spread, between Ukraine, Russia, United States, Israel, and other parts of the world. So this is where, this conflict feels incredibly difficult and challenging because of the cultural ties that go back generations, that go cultural, familial, friendship ties. And my family is not unique. My family was not unique in kind of how we were. This was quite routine in Ukraine. And that's where I think this situation, this conflict feels so painful, so incredibly just difficult to even imagine that this is happening. As I shared with you right as we started, I am in contact with my family in Ukraine. They've been living in Kiev. They resisted even leaving Kyiv. And again, I used, by the way, their alternative pronunciation. So Kyiv is the Ukrainian pronunciation and Kiev is the Russian pronunciation. And I go back and forth because, as I said, I grew up speaking Russian. To this day, I speak a very fluent Russian and a very broken Ukrainian. Still, though, this has been incredibly painful for people in Ukraine. This has been incredibly painful for my family. It is an all-out war, war with all the different dimensions that war brings. The population in Ukraine is suffering immensely right now. My family was able to take a train, and a train that ordinarily would take about 8 hours took almost 30 hours. They took a train from Kyiv to Lviv, and Lviv is a city in Western Ukraine that's near the Polish border. And they are saying Western Ukraine is just swarming with refugees. people from Kharkiv, people from Kiev, people from Mykolaiv, from Crimea, different parts of Ukraine are all coming to Western Ukraine. Some are crossing over to Poland, some are crossing over to Hungary, some are crossing over to Slovakia. Some people are just staying put in Western Ukraine. So it's incredibly painful to see this. It's incredibly painful to see the area, to see Kiev, the city where I was born, being bombed. The other day when a rocket hit the TV tower in Kiev and hit the Holocaust Memorial, which is right next to it, Babi Yar Holocaust Memorial. So my family lived about half a mile from there. So just about a kilometer from there, from that location. Babi Yar is the place where a good portion of our family perished. This was a Jewish concentration camp in the middle of Kiev. And so this was an incredibly difficult thing to see, right? Not only other bombings of, major city, European city, major population center. The bombing is also, they're bombing the ground that certainly we saw is sacred in our family, because this was a place where so many members of our family were buried. So, when people ask me, how am I feeling? It's complicated. I feel deep sadness. I feel deep compassion for the people of Ukraine, and also for people of Russia, and also for people everywhere in the world, because none of us are separate, from this conflict and from what is happening. And I also feel even hope. I feel hope that maybe the more we see how devastating these types of conflicts are and how harmful this way of seeing the world, where we divide with the world into, mine and yours and territory, and we argue over things in this way, that maybe as we see these scenes and so many people are touched by what is happening, that maybe we can all, as a humanity, see that there is another way, and this is not the only way for us to deal with each other and to deal with conflict. And this is, with weaponry that we have, that is getting more and more sophisticated and more destructive. This is just, we are destroying humanity with this. So sorry for taking so much time, but there is a lot arising, and my apologies for taking so long.
No, thank you for taking the time to share all that with us. It just helps us put everything in perspective. And like you said, we are interconnected. So in sharing your story, we get to connect with you and your experience. Does anyone else like to share what they're thinking or feeling this week? Kim?
It's really, when you said this week, it's like, yeah, we're, like, it feels like this has been going on forever, and yet it's not been that long. When we started having this conversation a week ago, we actually thought like Sunday was so far away that things might have drastically shifted by that time. I travel around the world, which gives me a different perspective on what happens in the world than when I was more stationary in my earlier years. When I'm in Amsterdam, I stay with my friend Anna, and Anna is Ukrainian, and she works for Allen and Overy in Amsterdam, she's a lawyer. She has Dutch children, but I have Russian dolls that she gave me when I'm there. She often talks about her concern. Like for years, she's been talking about her concern about the border, that there were, incursions at the border, and she was concerned about her family. And so I've sort of been aware of this conflict for a while and holding it in a way that it's like, this is not a far distant place. This is where my friend Anna's children, have grandparents and aunts and uncles and where she has friends. And so when this started happening, I reached out to Anna, and then I started, asking myself, who else do I know who that has these roots, and that there's this person and this person. And then I thought of my Russian friends. And so I was kind of in this place of not knowing what to do, but wanting to make a difference, when Carrie actually sent me a message and said she wanted to do something, and perhaps if we could do a special issue of Integrative Lawyers of the World. And I had gone to my LinkedIn and just found everybody that had Ukrainian roots and had written them all, and told them I hope they were safe and to be in touch. And so Carrie then reached out to those people, and we reached out to Henry. And so that's how this came about. In the meantime, Anna has been in touch with me pretty regularly, and one of her friends in Ukraine was scheduled to have breast cancer surgery this week, and she and her children fled to Poland. And just sort of miraculously in Poland, they're able to do the surgery this week. And so Anna has driven from Amsterdam down to Poland to pick up the children and bring them home. So she sent me a picture of her with her friend and the children, where she was picking them up. And so it's one thing to watch the news and see the people fleeing, and it's another thing to see my friend Anna sitting with these children that she's taken into her home. So I'm glad we're doing this. I wish that there were more. I've sent money. I've sent good wishes, and I'm happy to have something to do, even a little drop in the bucket.
Well, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing Anna's story with us too. Both of you so far shared stories of Henry, as you were talking about, we're creating weapons that may destroy humanity. But I think, Kim, this is what you talk about. Here's the antidote to that, the light in individuals. And you both, by sharing those stories with us of the humanity within ourselves, it made me feel better a little moment right now. So thank you. Beth or Sheena? If you don't want to, that's okay. If you do want to, just raise your hand. Sheena?
Yeah, so, hey, Kim. I don't know the others, but I'm Sheena Yonke from South Africa. So I don't have any connections to Ukraine or Russia, but obviously this is something that the whole world is burdened by and watching. And South Africa is part of BRICS, which is the alternative bank to the World Bank. And this week, South Africa declined to or abstained in the NATO vote. They were one of a handful of countries that didn't vote for or against. And so it's a very difficult, I think it's just a very difficult point in history for everyone. Everyone's kind of wondering, what is our part in this? How deeply are we connected to Russia? And just echoing what the first speaker said, we've literally, as humanity, we have invented technology to destroy ourselves. And I think that's the heart of this, is that we have invented, and we've, since the onset of the nuclear age, we have been inventing more ways or kind of more advanced ways to destroy ourselves. Now, I teach mediators, I specialize in restorative justice and transformative justice. And over the last week or so, I've been talking to my mediators who have said, what do we do here? And I've just kind of said to them, you do what you do. You make peace around you. Any peace you add into the atmosphere around you adds peace into the whole thing. Just as the wisdom teachers teach that if I'm at war with one person in my life, I'm essentially adding the kind of energy into this world that is required to run wars. So I believe the antithesis to be true, that if we concentrate on doing what we can in the world around us, whether we have connections to Ukrainians or Russians, or we have the ability to add peace into the world around us, I think we've got to start there. And I think that each of us needs to realize that we are powerful, we have power, we have agency, and like this, come together in prayer and meditation and really envision a world without violence. Something that I said to one of my programs in complex dialogue, I start and I say, can you see in your mind's eye a world without violence? Because if you have the ability to imagine it, that's the first step, isn't it? It's the no, there's never going to be a world without violence. That is a huge obstruction to a world without violence. So I think that as difficult a time that this is, I think there's a huge wave of lawyers that are coming together and saying that I can see it. I can see up ahead, and there could be a world without violence. And each of us needs to add into it what we can, add the peace building in the little space around us, add the peacemaking in the little space around us. And that gets bigger. It has to.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on this group. Appreciate it. And yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us here, and exactly what you were talking about, having the energy and putting out there the energy of peace and light and love. That's exactly why we wanted to come together in this meditation, to start within ourselves, in our mind's eye, and expand it outward. So thank you for sharing that and adding that energy to us today. Beth, would you like to share something?
Sure. I'm outside and it keeps getting loud right when I'm ready to say something. I was thinking a lot about what Henry and Sheena and Kim were all saying about how connected we all are. Once all of this started, it became more apparent how many connections I have to people in Ukraine and in Russia, that like spouses of friends or people with families there. And the way I was becoming aware of this was through social media. And I think that we have these double-edged technologies that for a long time, social media has been able to be used as a weapon to create divisiveness in a lot of ways. But right now I am seeing it used in a different way, because there are meetings like this where everybody is trying to just put good energy out there. I've been seeing videos and firsthand accounts from people in Ukraine and in Russia, or who have been getting direct information from their families that are still there, giving a true snapshot of what is going on and what it looks like for the people there, and why. There was one I saw yesterday that was from a person in Russia and she was talking about what it looks like on the ground as far as communication goes, and who is allowed to talk, and what message is being shared, and how hard they're squashing voices that the government doesn't want heard.
Wow.
And I think back to past conflicts and wars, that we didn't have that as individuals. Like, we would get that from a newspaper or like the news on TV, but we didn't have that, like, this is a single face saying, this is what's happening to me, this is what's happening to my family. And I think that can be very powerful. And so I'm hoping that actions like what we're taking and using these tools in this way to create connection, like Henry said, that's what it is. We're all connected. And the more we can point that out, I think the more change will happen.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And the idea of social media and putting out there for being used in good, and showing, I think, Henry, as you were saying, it builds upon what Henry was saying too. As more people are aware of the atrocities of war, maybe more people are going to be able to say, we no longer want this way to handle things. And in that aspect, social media can help us quite a bit. I guess for me, the past few weeks has also been the same, a lot of the feelings that you guys expressed, the wanting to do something, feeling anxious, feeling disappointed in, like, I thought we were at that new way, I thought we were already there, and disappointed that it's fell through, and that disappointment was lined with fear. And then in personal things, my husband is a UK citizen, and just last week we were both in DC, and he left to go to the UK. And just how we are with things, there will be periods of time where we have to be in different countries, and so we say goodbye to each other before we meet up, and that's kind of been normal for us. But this time, when he was leaving to go to the UK, I just broke down in tears, and he broke down in tears, and there was just this fear of, are you going to a place, and are we going to be in war? Or, like, we plan on seeing each other, but what's the world going to be like? And it was just really hard to say that goodbye. But it's a see you soon. So we'll put it that way. And then I said, if I'm feeling this fear, what must the fear that the people in Ukraine are feeling? So I am very happy to be here with all of you today, and to get grounded in an energy of love and light and peace. Does anyone else want to share anything before we start with our meditation? Okay. Then, Henry, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Now, let me see, could you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, I think Beth can do that.
And as we get ready for meditation, the invitation and intention that I would like to set for this meditation and for this gathering is the experience, the practice, and the state of radical inclusion. Radical inclusion. And what do I mean by that? You see, if I truly experience you, whoever you may be, whether you're Russian, Ukrainian, South African, wherever you come from, woman, man, whatever your race, color, religion, ethnicity, any of that, if I can experience you, even just for a moment, as truly a part of me, then does anyone need to tell me then not to kill you, not to hurt you, not to do all these horrible things that we do to each other? Because at the core of this is the idea that someone is the other. Someone is the other, that there is such a thing as Russians, and there is such a thing as Ukrainians. And actually, I will suggest that there is not, right? This is all human inventions. People who live in this little territory, they're called Russians. People live in this little territory, they're called Ukrainians. People who live in the other little territory, they're called Americans or something else, right? And so the second invitation for us to see as we get into the meditation is to see our identities as boundaries. All of our identities as boundaries. And so, like all boundaries, they can define us to some extent. They can protect us to some extent. And then ultimately, they start limiting and confining us. They start limiting and confining us. Because if I only see the world as an American, or as Ukrainian, or as Russian, or as Black, or as white, or just as a woman, all of these are very, very limiting perspectives. All of these are very, very limiting perspectives. And so the invitation is that we see these identities as boundaries. Yes, we can play with them. Yes, we can engage with them. But also that we can move beyond them. So with these invitations, let me, I will share my screen. Now, we won't have to look at the screen for some time. Oh, wait, 1 second. It's not letting Zoom share my screen for some reason.
On our end, you are allowed to.
Yeah, no, I see. Let me just see. I guess this is, I'm using my wife's computer and I'm just, let me just make one change very quickly. And if this is going to work, it's going to work. And if it's not, then it's not. But I did want to share some musical selections later on with you that I thought would be okay. Later, let me try this now and see if this will work. Okay, I think this will work. So
Yep, there it goes.
see my screen?
Yes.
Make sure that you've,
Can you see my screen?
yes, and we see meditation for
Okay.
Ukraine. Make sure you've enabled the sound.
And I think, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I can't hear. Okay. Now I can. Okay, we're all good. So with that said, as we begin our meditation, I'm going to invite each and all of you to come into a comfortable seated position. If you're seated in a chair, I'm going to invite you to move closer to the edge of the chair so that you're not reclining, so that your back is not touching the back of the chair. If you can, if it is helpful that your feet are planted on the ground, we want to connect with this ground. We want to ground as much as we can. If that's not something that is doable for you right now, this moment, that is totally fine as well. And as you're getting comfortable, I'm also going to invite you to bring your spine in such a way that the spine is comfortably erect. So there is no tension, but there is just a slight curve in the back of the spine, making sure you're comfortable, not creating any discomfort in the body. And when you're ready, when you feel comfortable, I'm going to invite you to gently close your eyes and to tune into your breath. Tune into the breath. Notice the colder air entering the nostrils. Notice the warmer air leaving. consciously make your breath deeper so that the breath travels to and through the chest, to and through the stomach, and even to and through the pelvic floor. And consciously pause as little as possible between each inhale and each exhale so that the breath is traveling in one smooth, continuous wave. Inhale, transitions to exhale. Exhale, transitions to inhale. Just letting the breath flow smoothly, gently, consistently, as wave upon wave. Ensuring that each inhale is as complete as possible and each exhale is as complete as possible. Inhaling deeply, exhaling completely. And for us to tune in even further, we're going to use a very simple English phrase to first help us to connect with this moment right here, right now. And the phrase we're going to be using is I am here now. And we're going to combine this phrase with the breath. So as you inhale, think of the word I, exhale, am, inhale here, exhale now. I am here now. Just staying with the breath. As thoughts come, as experiences come, as sensations come, just keep returning to I am here now. Again, remembering to combine it with the breath. As you inhale, thinking of the word I, exhale, am, inhale here, exhale now. And let's just stay with that. Staying with the mantra. I am here now. And as you are continuing to breathe, there are a few things I would like you to connect with. Remember, you are inhaling what someone else has exhaled, and someone else will inhale what you have exhaled. You may like them, you may not like them, you may see them as different, similar. You may have all kinds of stories, ideas, judgments about that person or those beings. And yet, what they exhale, you inhale. What you inhale, they exhaled. And so whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you're aware of it or not aware of it, you're always connected to anyone and everyone else. So as we're continuing to breathe, I'm going to invite all of you to bring your awareness into your heart space. I'm going to invite everyone to bring your awareness into your heart space. It may be helpful for you to place your hands at your heart. If you're placing your hands at the heart, you can either place them in namaskar posture, meaning prayer, something we typically refer as prayer pose, connecting the fingers at the chest, or you can place your hands on your chest, right over left. As you're placing your hands at your chest, take a moment to connect with your own heartbeat, with the beat and rhythm of your own body. Now, consciously, start expanding your heart space. Consciously, start expanding your heart space. Bring into your heart space people who are closest and dearest to you. Bring into the heart space people who are closest and dearest to you. Hold them there. Just experience their presence in your heart space. You don't have to say anything to them. You don't have to do anything. Just experience the presence of the people who are closest to you at your heart space. Now, bring into your heart space friends, acquaintances, colleagues, people you care about, but maybe people you don't know so well. Again, just bring them into your heart space. You don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything. Just bring them into your heart space. Now, bring into your heart space the people of Ukraine. If you know someone there, then imagine the people you know in your heart. If you don't know anyone there, just bring in the people of Ukraine into your heart. You don't have to fix anything for them. There is nothing to do. Just bring them into your heart and hold a space for them there. And along with people of Ukraine, bring into your heart the people of Russia, including the military forces, including the leaders, including everyone. Again, you don't have to do anything. Just bring all these people into your heart space. And now, bring into your heart space all the people from around the world, from all the different places, countries, continents, people who are suffering, people who are in joy, people who you like and people whom you don't, people of every religion, color, race, creed, ethnicity, nationality. Bring all 7 billion and counting people into your heart space. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix anything. Just hold all the 7 billion people in your heart space. As you're holding all the 7 billion people in your heart, I'm going to be playing the Indian mantra of inclusion, Loka Samasta, Sukhino Bhavantu. The Sanskrit mantra, may all the sentient beings be happy and free. Continue holding all the 7 billion humans in your heart as you listen to this mantra. If it serves you, if you feel driven to, feel free to join in singing, or otherwise, just continue to receive.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings transcend suffering. May all beings experience great healing. May all beings realize the truth within their heart and be set free. May we heal as one. May we rise as one. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
And staying on with the breath, continuing to maintain awareness in your heart of all the 7 billion people and counting. As we listen to this prayer for Ukraine, performed by the Ukrainian National Symphonic Choir.